How's it going, everybody? Ragroth here. I know it's been a long time since I talked about anything Final Fantasy related. I'm super excited for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm definitely more excited for it than I was Remake. Granted, there are some things I'm still concerned about, and I know I wasn't super thrilled about Remake, at least at first, mainly because I just wasn't thrilled with only covering Midgar. However, actually playing through the game now, and kind of us being a little closer to getting the next part, I could definitely appreciate it more and kind of definitely see a lot of the awesome things about it that people are talking about. However, I want to talk about 5 things I'd like to see in the game, kind of features or ideas. These are mainly things that weren't in Remake, or maybe not incorporated well in Remake, that I'd like to see improve or just be added in. Now, we could be possibly getting some news soon with Tokyo Game Show coming up, and especially with the new mobile game, Ever Crisis, coming out like in maybe a couple weeks now. So this could kind of age well or age badly, or at least be just irrelevant. So just keep that in mind. So let's get started. By the way, I should say that these are going to be mainly listed from least want, like I want it, but it's the lowest priority of these, and then the thing I want most, basically. Number 5. Being able to customize your party more. Now, what I mean by this basically is I feel like in Remake, there were just a lot of times you really didn't have much choice over who you could use. Granted, I think this is going to be taken care of in Rebirth anyway, because in Remake there were only 4 playable party members, and it was kind of spaced throughout the whole game. There's a lot of parts where people get separated and all that. So I guess basically it would just be nice if whenever the time, hopefully there are more times when everybody is together, or at the very least, like the initial ones you start out with, they'll be together, and you can use who you want in your party whenever you want. Just get a little bit more freedom there. I feel like it will be, because I think there's been some notice in some of the footage that you see like 3 characters fighting, and I think you see someone else in the background, like Barrett, I believe. So I think that's already being done, but it would be nice just to kind of get a full confirmation on this that is the case. Obviously, I get it. There are going to be some parts where some characters are going to get separated. I understand that, or there might just be some parts where the party is split up. Like, for instance, it looks like when you're in the cave, I forget which cave, I apologize, where you fight the Turks. It looks like Cloud and Tifa are together, and Barrett and Red 13 are together. I forget who else was in there off the top of my head, but that's the general gist of it. Then Barrett and Red are fighting that rock monster, while Cloud and Tifa are fighting the Turks. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this will probably be implemented better in Rebirth. Number 4. Weapons carrying over from Remake. So there's been kind of a big debate with if things will carry over from Remake, your stats and your gear and all that. So I guess it's probably safe to say stats won't. I think they'll probably break the game, like especially if especially if you max the game out, you're going to be overpowered. However, I do think it would be a shame if you at least can't get your weapons that you brought over, that you had gotten Remake, because I understand these games are being treated as separate games from each other. However, they have to still consider, for people that grew up playing the original FF7, or not even grew up, just played the original FF7, where the weapons you get in the beginning you carry with you the whole game, obviously, unless you sell them. So it would be kind of a shame if you don't get to carry all the weapons that you got in Remake, at least the ones you actually got. I think there was like one I didn't get. I think it was the one Aerith one you get from stealing from that one boss, which I can live without, whatever. But it would just be kind of a shame if that at least didn't carry over. I mean, sure, it's fine if they're not fully upgraded. I'll take that. But at least let us just bring the weapons over. I think if they're just kind of base level 1 weapons, I don't think it's going to really be the end of the world. I mean, I'm fine with equipment not carrying over, just because equipment, it's more, there's no aesthetic difference there. If you equip a bulletproof vest or something, it's not going to actually show up on the character, for instance. It's more so the weapons I care about, especially because they each have their own unique abilities, too. Like, it's fine if you have to, I'd rather not have to raise the proficiency again. Actually, no, you know what? I'll say that. I think the weapon and the proficiency should be the 2 things that carry over. Everything else, I'm fine if they don't carry over. I don't think the game will be too unbalanced if you start with weapons from Remake and if you have their ability already unlocked. What they could also do is they could maybe have a separate, slightly harder difficulty for people that did maybe play Remake. I'm not sure how that can be implemented exactly, but maybe there can be some way it can be done. And it would be nice if they did give actual confirmation on this. They haven't really said anything about this yet. Number 3, less linear. I love Remake, but oh my god, it is linear as hell. Admittedly, it does open up at some points, but it's just so, like, you just can't do that much, and the environments are just so narrow for the most part. And of course, I do understand that because it's Midgar, and Midgar is just one big area. Even in the original, Midgar is pretty linear. Now, I want to say this is probably 100% being addressed just from what we've seen. You know, we're going to be more out in the open, places in between towns and cities and all that, so I don't think we have to worry about that. I'm sure it probably won't be open as, like, Final Fantasy 15, which is okay. I mean, no offense to Final Fantasy 15, but there are a lot of just kind of wide, empty areas with nothing in it. Maybe FF7 Rebirth will be kind of hitting better balance. FF16 is also kind of more open at some points. I haven't beaten it yet, so I can't comment too much there. But yeah, like, I would just say at the very least, more open than Remake. Doesn't have to be as open as 15. We'll put it that way. And like I said, I feel like that will be the case considering the scope of the game is different than Remakes, where it's just on Midgar. Number 2, alternate costumes. This was definitely something that kind of bugged me. I mean, not all Final Fantasy games, or let alone the newer ones, have alternate costumes. Like 15 did. I don't know if 16 does. I know 13, or at least 13, at least Lightning Returns did. But like, there's a lot of material to work with Final Fantasy characters, especially Final Fantasy 7 characters. And even more so now, with FF7 Ever Crisis coming out, and literally using assets from FF7 Remake. So we should definitely be seeing at least some of these outfits in FF7 Rebirth, in my opinion. At the very least, the only outfits I absolutely need are the Advent Children outfits, mainly for Cloud and Tifa. If you at least get those two as alternate costumes, I'll be pretty happy. Now, I understand Advent Children takes place after the FF7 games, whatever you want to call them, but they're just alternate costumes. Like, why does it matter? And I mean, we've had tons of games where Cloud's default is the classic FF7 look. You know, why not? And then the Advent Children is the alternate. Why not just do that? I don't see any harm in that. Granted, I actually don't think they're in Ever Crisis yet, so that might be a bit of a problem. But even still, make it exclusive for FF7 Rebirth. Number 1. Cover more ground from the original game. What I basically mean by this is just get farther in the story than FF7 Remake did, because as much as I love the game, that is my main criticism with it, is that it only covered Midgar. Now, granted, looking back, I can kind of understand maybe why they did, because there was a lot of stuff added, and also, I feel like if they just went a little past, if they did all of that, and then they just went a little past Midgar, there probably wouldn't have really been a good climactic point to end on, because I feel like for a little bit after that, you're kind of, everything for the most part, there's nothing really super duper crazy that happens. I feel like now there'll be more climactic points to end on. And admittedly, yes, I realize the story will be different, but even still, it seems like it is still covering some of the same beats, same locations, and all that. I mainly want this just because so we can get all the playable party members in this game. Because literally all they really got to do is just show me playable Vincent, and my hype will be through the roof. And that's just everything. They're not really saying when exactly this game will end up. And I guess maybe it's just because they don't want to spoil it or something. Maybe it's because of the change in the story. It's hard to kind of nail that down. I personally think sort of the reasonable but also sensible point to end at would be where Aerith dies. There are other later points it could end at, which would be great. Hey, the farther they get, the better, I say. But this is more sort of be realistic, but also not overly negative at the same time. But yeah, I think if the game at least ended it where Aerith dies, or if she does actually die or not, I don't know, and we get like all the playable party members, that's pretty solid in my opinion. And sure, yeah, I would like to see things added to different locations, like more stuff at Cosmo Canyon, Gold Saucer, all that. Fine, but just at least cover more than Remake did. At least just get a little farther than that. I mean, I can understand adding so much to Midgar, because I think it is probably one of the most iconic locations in not just Final Fantasy VII, but maybe all of Final Fantasy, maybe even in gaming in general, for all I know. So I can understand kind of the need to kind of add or that. It's also just such a big location. A lot of the other locations you go to in Final Fantasy VII just aren't quite as big in scale, so I don't really think there's, as much of a need to add more to them as they did it with Midgar and Remake. So those were 5 things I would like to see added or improved in FF7 Rebirth. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below about them. Again, some of these things we might find out they're added by the time I release this video, so I do apologize ahead of time. There's only so much I can do about that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd like to say we're maybe about 6 months away from Rebirth coming out. It'll probably maybe come out in March, maybe get delayed a month, kind of like Remake did for this extra polish, but I guess we'll see. But also, again, like the video if you like it, dislike if you dislike it. Definitely consider subscribing if you like this video and some of my others. It would really help the channel out a lot. Of course, I also got a Discord. You can feel free to join as well. Help the community grow. Thank you so much for checking out my video. And as I always say, another time, another place. Keep being awesome.